23 Black celebrities who secretly had plastic surgery you didn't know about. Then and now, 2026. What if the most famous faces in Black music history were never fully your own? 23 legends. 23 stories the industry never wanted you to hear. Not gossip, truth. Michael Jackson confirmed his surgeries in writing. Toni Braxton announced hers on Twitter. Lil Kim revealed hers through tears on live radio. These weren't vanity, these were survival. These were the invisible taxes that fame charged, paid in silence, in scalpels, in mirrors that never gave back what was taken. Before this video ends, you will see these icons differently, not smaller, bigger, because now you'll know what it actually cost them to stand in that spotlight. If you've ever felt pressure to change who you are just to be accepted, this video was made for you. Stay until the end. The last story will break your heart. Michael Jackson. The face of Michael Jackson is perhaps the most analyzed, debated, and mourned transformation in the history of entertainment. Born on August 29, 1958, in Gary, Indiana, the eighth of 10 children in a working-class family, Michael showed extraordinary talent from the age of 5. By the time Thriller dropped in 1982 and sold over 70 million copies worldwide, he wasn't just a musician, he was a phenomenon. But alongside the music, a quieter story was unfolding, one written not in lyrics, but in surgeries. Michael himself confirmed in his 1988 autobiography, Moonwalk, that he had rhinoplasty, a nose job, twice. His first procedure came in 1979, following an accident during rehearsal when he fell and broke his nose. However, what many don't know is that a court-ordered medical review in 1993, led by Dr. Richard Strick, a physician hired by the prosecution, concluded that the majority of his subsequent nasal surgeries were reconstructive, not cosmetic. His nose tissue had been damaged by discoid lupus, a disease that destroys skin at the cellular level. The operations were not vanity, they were survival. The whitening of his skin, so often weaponized against him, was a documented medical condition called vitiligo, a disorder that causes loss of pigmentation in patches across the body. Michael used prescription depigmentation creams to even out the color, not to erase his blackness. He told Oprah Winfrey in 1993, "It's not something I can control." Yet the world chose spectacle over science. The tabloids called him a monster. The mockery was relentless. Behind the stage lights, Michael carried something far heavier than fame. He carried the pain of never being believed, never being enough, never being allowed to simply be human. He confirmed only a chin implant addition as purely cosmetic. Everything else remains, legally and medically, a matter of reconstruction, not reinvention. He died on June 25, 2009, at the age of 50, taken by acute propofol intoxication. A final chapter written by isolation and insomnia, not ambition. What we remember isn't the nose, it's Billie Jean. It's the moonwalk. It's a boy from Gary, Indiana, who lit the world on fire and burned himself in the process. The real Michael Jackson never needed a scalpel to be extraordinary. He just needed the world to listen. Toni Braxton. There are voices that don't just sing, they confess. Toni Braxton, born October 7, 1967, in Severn, Maryland, has one of those voices. Unbreak My Heart spent 11 consecutive weeks at #1 in 1996. It wasn't a song, it was a wound set to music. And like many wounds, the story behind it was more complicated than the melody suggested. Toni Braxton is one of the few Black female entertainers who chose transparency over silence. In her 2014 memoir, Unbreak My Heart, she wrote openly about getting a rhinoplasty, a nose reduction, shortly after signing her first major deal with LaFace Records in the early 1990s. She described years of wanting to change her nose, feeling it was too broad, but suppressing that desire because of the strict religious household she grew up in. Her father was a Methodist minister. Vanity wasn't just frowned upon, It was sin. But Hollywood has its own commandments, and they are rarely merciful. She also confirmed breast augmentation, which she later had removed due to complications. A detail she disclosed matter-of-factly, without drama or apology. On Twitter, she once wrote bluntly, "I only had my boobies and my nose done in 1992. 11 exclamation points and zero shame." That kind of honesty, rare in an industry built on illusion, made fans love her even more. Toni's career achievements are staggering. 7 Grammy Awards, over 70 million records sold worldwide, and a Billboard legacy that spans 3 decades. But her journey was also marked by 2 bankruptcy filings. The music industry's fine print had swallowed her royalties whole, and a lifelong battle with lupus, the same autoimmune disease that quietly shadowed Michael Jackson. What makes Braxton's story resonate beyond celebrity gossip is this: she changed because she wanted to, announced it because she chose to, and moved forward without making her body the most interesting thing about her. In a culture that still treats a woman's appearance as public property, that is its own kind of revolution. She is 58 years old, still performing, still soulful, still unbreakable. Her nose may be different, her heart remains exactly the same. Lil Kim, Kimberly Denise Jones, was born July 11, 1974, in Brooklyn, New York. And from the beginning, the world had opinions about how she should look, how she should speak, and how much space she was allowed to take up. Lil Kim answered those opinions with Hardcore in 1996, a debut album that sold over 6 million copies worldwide, and announced her arrival with a voice that was equal parts seduction and defiance. But behind the platinum records and the bold stage persona, Kim was carrying something she rarely talked about publicly, a history of physical abuse at the hands of a former boyfriend that left her with a broken nose, black eyes, and injuries serious enough to require multiple MRIs. In a 2005 radio interview with DJ Angie Martinez on Hot 97, Kim broke her silence. She described being punched in the face while sitting in a car, bleeding, terrified, and returning to the relationship again and again because she didn't believe she was worth more. "I've had the black eye, bloody lips, busted nose," she said. Each time she went back, the violence continued, and each time her nose required another surgery. That is where the story of Lil Kim's transformation begins, not in vanity, but in trauma. Over the years, the changes escalated beyond reconstruction. Kim herself acknowledged she cheated and got several features fixed up, a word choice that speaks volumes about how she saw herself. By the 2000s, her appearance had changed dramatically enough to spark widespread concern. Cosmetic surgeons analyzing public photos estimated she had likely undergone multiple rhinoplasties, cheek and chin work, lip augmentation, and skin lightening procedures, though Kim has only ever formally confirmed her nose surgeries. In a 2000 interview, she revealed the emotional core of her decisions. Her boyfriends had always cheated on her with women who looked more European. She felt that as a regular black girl, she couldn't compete. That sentence is perhaps the most heartbreaking thing any artist has ever said publicly, and it explains far more than any surgery ever could. Lil Kim is 51 years old. She is a Grammy Award winner, a pioneer of female hip-hop, and a survivor. The tragedy of her story is not what she changed, it's what she was made to feel about herself before she ever touched a surgeon's table. NeNe Leakes. If there is one celebrity who turned plastic surgery into a conversation rather than a secret, it is NeNe Leakes. Born Latifah Monique Johnson on December 13, 1967, she became one of television's most magnetic personalities as a cast member of The Real Housewives of Atlanta, a show that launched its 3rd season with NeNe literally going under the knife on camera. Rhinoplasty, liposuction, and breast lift, performed and documented for millions of viewers. Her reasoning was disarmingly honest. If you care about yourself and you want to tune up something here or there, pick it up, she told BET in 2010. There was no hesitation, no manufactured regret, no carefully worded press statement. NeNe said what she meant, a quality that made her polarizing and beloved in equal measure. In 2016, she returned for a second rhinoplasty and confirmed it live on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. The cartilage in her nose had been growing inward, causing the tip to touch her upper lip when she smiled. The surgery was medically necessary, but NeNe also admitted she had never loved her original nose. I got my nose done because I can, and I will get it done again if I want to. 7 words that became a statement of bodily autonomy few celebrities have ever said so plainly. NeNe's journey is inseparable from her resilience. She lost her husband Greg Leakes to colon cancer in September 2021 after standing by him through diagnosis, treatment, remission, and relapse. The grief was public and raw. She has also spoken candidly about financial struggles after leaving RHOA and rebuilding her career independently, including opening her own lounge in Duluth, Georgia. What NeNe represents beyond the headlines and the reality TV drama is a woman who refused to pretend. She changed her appearance without fabricating a justification. She aged publicly without apology. She grieved openly. In a media landscape that rewards performance over authenticity, NeNe Leakes has always chosen reality, which, as it turns out, is far more compelling than any script. She is 58 years old, and she has never once asked for permission to be exactly who she is. Sandra, Pepa, Denton. Before there was a conversation about women in hip-hop, there was salt in Pepa. And Sandra Pepa Denton, born November 9, 1969, in Kingston, Jamaica, was the heat at the center of that fire. From Push It in 1987 to Let's Talk About Sex in 1991, Salt and Pepa cracked open a culture that had never heard women speak so freely about their own bodies, desires, and power. They sold over 15 million records worldwide. They won a Grammy. They changed the conversation permanently. But decades later, Pepa found herself in a quieter, more private conversation, the one we have with ourselves in the mirror. In 2007, just before the premiere of her VH1 reality series, The Salt in Pepa Show, Pepa underwent rhinoplasty. She had the tip of her nose refined and a more defined bridge created. The change was noticeable enough to spark immediate discussion online, but Pepa addressed it without elaborate explanation. The surgery was documented in media coverage surrounding the show's launch, confirmed by reports at the time, and reflected in her changed appearance from that point forward. What followed the rhinoplasty was more significant than the surgery itself. Butt and hip implants, procedures that Pepa later described with candor in interviews, including discussing the physical challenges that came with recovery and the complications that can arise when the body resists what has been placed inside it. She urged other women to maintain complete medical records if they ever switch surgeons during a recovery process. Practical advice born from personal experience. Pepa's story sits at an interesting intersection. She was part of a movement that told women to celebrate their natural bodies, to speak boldly, to take up space. That the same woman also chose cosmetic enhancement is not a contradiction. It is a reminder that the freedom to choose includes the freedom to change. Empowerment doesn't require stillness. She is 56 years old, still performing with Salt and Pepa at live events, still carrying the legacy of a group that changed what was possible for women in music. The nose may be different, the push-it energy has never changed. Tamar Braxton. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from being famous in someone else's shadow. Tamar Braxton, born March 17, 1977, the youngest of the 5 Braxton sisters, spent much of her early career being introduced as Toni Braxton's sister, a phrase that, however well-intentioned, carried the quiet weight of insufficiency. It took years of fierce work, a talk show, a reality series, and a debut album that reached the top of the R&B charts in 2013 before Tamar was allowed to exist in her own right. Along the way, she made no secret of her philosophy. "I believe in anything you have to do to make yourself feel good." She has confirmed rhinoplasty, initially citing breathing difficulties, though she acknowledged both functional and aesthetic motivations. She has also confirmed breast procedures and various cosmetic enhancements over the years, approaching the subject with the same sharp wit she brings to everything else. What separates Tamar's story from a simple cosmetic narrative is the emotional complexity underneath it. In July 2020, she was found unresponsive in her hotel room, having taken an overdose of pills and alcohol. She survived. In interviews that followed, she spoke about years of feeling undervalued, dismissed by her network, and publicly humiliated. The pressure to look perfect and perform happiness while privately unraveling is a burden that reality television is particularly skilled at creating and entirely unwilling to acknowledge. Tamar Braxton has now won a Grammy Award, Best Traditional R&B Vocal Album in 2014 for Love and War, and she has rebuilt her public presence on her own terms. She is a mother. She is, by most accounts, healing. What her story illustrates is something the entertainment industry rarely admits, that the desire to change one's appearance and the desire to survive one's circumstances are sometimes the same thing, expressed in different languages. The body becomes the canvas for everything the mind cannot say out loud. She is 49 years old. She has been many things: a sister, a singer, a survivor, and she is, finally, Tamar first. Jasmine Guy. Some faces belong so completely to a single era that they become its emblem. Jasmine Guy, born March 10, 1964, in Boston, Massachusetts, is one of those faces. As Whitley Gilbert on A Different World, the beloved NBC spin-off of The Cosby Show that ran from 1987 to 1993, she gave American television one of its most complicated, funny, and fully realized black female characters. Whitley wasn't perfect. She was dramatic, self-absorbed, and endlessly entertaining. She was also, week after week, undeniably human. A Different World aired during a period when black college life had almost no representation on network television. At its peak, it drew 20 million viewers per week. Jasmine Guy was at the center of that moment, a dancer turned actress whose timing was impeccable and whose presence was effortless. For most of the 3 decades that followed, Jasmine Guy lived a quieter professional life. Stage work, independent films, guest television appearances, and raising her daughter Imani, born in 2000. She moved through middle age without the desperate scramble for relevance that consumes many performers when the spotlight shifts. Then, in December 2024, she posted something unexpected on Instagram: a before and after video of a PDO filler thread procedure, a minimally invasive treatment sometimes referred to as a thread lift, performed at a medical aesthetic boutique in Atlanta. Her caption was warm and appreciative, thanking the team for their care and professionalism. No drama, no crisis. Just a woman at 60 making a choice about her face and choosing to share it with the people who had loved her for decades. The response was largely positive. Fans grateful for her openness, grateful she still looked like herself, grateful she was still here. Because that is what Jasmine Guy has always offered: presence, realness, the sense that the person on screen is actually in the room with you. She is 62 years old. Whitley Gilbert would absolutely have gotten a thread lift, and she would have been very pleased with the results. Kelly Rowland. Kelly Rowland, born February 11, 1981, in Atlanta, Georgia, has spent most of her adult life standing beside one of the most famous women in the world. That is not an easy place to stand. As a founding member of Destiny's Child, alongside Beyoncé and LaToya Luckett, later replaced by Michelle Williams, Kelly contributed to one of the best-selling girl groups in history, with combined sales exceeding 60 million records worldwide. Individually, she has scored international hits including Dilemma 2002, which spent 10 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. But for much of that career, the narrative around Kelly Rowland was shaped by comparison rather than achievement. She was the other one, the one who wasn't Beyoncé. That framing, relentless and reductive, followed her through every phase of her career, despite the fact that her voice, a rich, lower contralto, is entirely distinct and entirely extraordinary on its own terms. In 2008, Kelly spoke openly with People magazine about her decision to get breast augmentation, going from an A cup to a B cup. Her reasoning was refreshingly ordinary. She wanted to fit into her clothes better. "I was sick of not fitting into my tops," she said. She went on to add, "It is a decision I made for myself. I like it, and that's all that counts." She also offered a word of caution to young women considering the same. Think about it before you just jump off and do something you may regret later. That combination, honesty about her own choice, responsibility toward her audience, reflects something consistently true about Kelly Rowland. She has never performed in vulnerability. She has talked about depression, about feeling overlooked, about the difficulty of finding her identity outside of a famous group. And she has done so without making her pain a brand. She is 45 years old, married to Tim Weatherspoon, and a mother. She is currently one of the coaches on The Voice Australia. Her voice has only deepened with time. Standing beside greatness your whole life and still being yourself, that is its own kind of extraordinary. Queen Latifah. Dana Elaine Owens, Queen Latifah, was born March 18, 1970, in Newark, New Jersey, and she arrived in hip-hop at a moment when the genre had almost no room for women, let alone women who refused to shrink. Her 1989 debut single, Ladies First, was not a song. It was a declaration. It placed her in a lineage of black women who had always demanded to be seen and heard, and it announced that hip-hop would have to make space whether it wanted to or not. In the decades that followed, Queen Latifah won a Grammy, a Golden Globe, and an Emmy nomination. She starred in Chicago, 2002, earning an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress. She produced television, she headlined concerts, and she became one of the few artists to build a genuine crossover career that touched rap, R&B, jazz, acting, and producing simultaneously. Through all of it, Queen Latifah was also navigating something deeply personal: the way her body was perceived, discussed, and judged in an industry where a woman's size is treated as a moral statement. She has spoken about body image with intelligence and care, and she has always pushed back against the idea that weight is a measure of worth. In the mid-1990s, she underwent breast reduction surgery. At the time, she weighed significantly more than the industry preferred and had moved from an E cup to a DD following the procedure. The decision was driven primarily by physical health, back pain, shoulder strain, and the physical demands of performing. She spoke about it matter-of-factly, as a health choice, not a beauty one. "There are people who love plastic surgery and want to cut and chop anything. I'm like, y'all are crazy," she said afterward, drawing a clear line between what she had done and what she had no interest in doing. That clarity, that sense of knowing her own limits and honoring them, is one of Queen Latifah's most enduring qualities. She has never needed anyone else's definition of beautiful. She built her own. She is 56 years old, and the First Lady of Hip-Hop still holds the crown. Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams, born July 18, 1964, in Asbury Park, New Jersey, built her career on saying what everyone else was thinking and refusing to apologize for it. As a radio shock jock in New York through the 1990s and early 2000s, she developed a following by being more candid than any mainstream media personality dared to be. When The Wendy Williams Show launched on national television in 2008, that same candor reached 2 to 3 million daily viewers at its peak. She talked about other people's lives. She also talked about her own. With a frankness that was sometimes startling, Wendy Williams disclosed her rhinoplasty and breast augmentation publicly, and she did so without constructing a narrative of regret or empowerment around it. "I believe in plastic surgery or anything you have to do to make yourself feel good," she told Essence magazine. "I'm all about self-esteem. I've had my nose done." That sentence, delivered in the same tone she used to discuss celebrity feuds and tabloid headlines, was, in its own way, radical. Because Wendy Williams had spent years being described in terms of her appearance. Her size, her wigs, her outfits, all were public commentary. Owning her surgical choices was her way of refusing to be managed. But the fuller story of Wendy Williams is a harder one. In 2022, her family disclosed that she had been diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia and aphasia, a progressive neurological condition that affects behavior, personality, and language. The announcement came after years of public health struggles, including a Graves' disease diagnosis in 2018 and increasingly erratic public behavior that had generated headlines for the wrong reasons. The Wendy Williams Show ended in 2022. A Lifetime documentary, Where is Wendy Williams?, released in 2024, showed a woman whose autonomy had been significantly diminished, a jarring contrast to the outspoken force she had been for 3 decades. What remains is the legacy, a Black woman who found a way to be unapologetically loud in a media landscape that preferred its women quiet, pretty, and agreeable. She was none of those things. And 61 years in, that still matters. Vivica A. Fox. Vivica Anjanetta Fox was born July 30th, 1964, in South Bend, Indiana, and she earned her first moment of national attention not in a leading role, but as the woman Will Smith couldn't resist in Independence Day, 1996, a blockbuster that earned over $817 million at the worldwide box office. That single performance opened a door, and Vivica Fox ran through it with everything she had. Set It Off followed the same year. Soul Food in 1997 cemented her as a genuine dramatic talent. And Kill Bill Volume 1, 2003, in which she matched Quentin Tarantino's choreographed fury beat for beat, showed a range that Hollywood had still not fully utilized. Throughout her career, Vivica has been candid about the pressures that come with being a Black actress in Hollywood, the specific, relentless scrutiny applied to her body, her age, and her appearance. She has spoken about the fear of becoming invisible after 40, a fear that is not irrational in an industry where women's careers are often measured in peaks rather than trajectories. Rumors of cosmetic work, fillers, possible facial procedures have followed her for years. She has not confirmed the full extent of any procedures, but she has never been dismissive about the subject either. In 2016, she appeared alongside NeNe Leakes on Watch What Happens Live. On the very evening NeNe confirmed her second rhinoplasty, an unrehearsed, candid conversation about aging in public, about the choices women make when the camera is always on, and about the quiet pressure that never fully lifts. Vivica's personal honesty extends to her professional one. She has spoken openly about the regret of not having children, about being unlucky in love, and about rebuilding after career periods that were quieter than she wanted. She turned to producing, hosting, and independent film work, refusing the alternative, disappearance. She is 61 years old. She is currently directing and producing. Her laugh is just as immediate and infectious as it was in 1996. What Vivica A. Fox represents is this: a woman who fought for her place in a story that kept trying to write her out, and stayed on the page through sheer will. Chaka Khan. Yvette Marie Stevens was born March 23, 1953, in Chicago, Illinois, and by the time she adopted the name Chaka Khan, given to her by a Yoruba high priest when she was a teenager, she had already found a voice that needed no introduction. As the lead vocalist of the funk band Rufus, beginning in the early 1970s, and then as a solo artist whose 1978 debut, Chaka, produced the #1 R&B hit, I'm Every Woman. She established herself as one of the most technically gifted and emotionally fearless singers of her generation. The stats are staggering: 10 Grammy Awards, sales of approximately 70 million records worldwide, the first R&B artist ever to have a crossover hit featuring a rapper, with Prince's I Feel For You in 1984. Ranked 17th on VH1's 100 Greatest Women of Rock and Roll. Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2023 in the Musical Excellence category. A career spanning more than 5 decades and showing no signs of exhaustion. Chaka Khan belongs in this conversation for a reason that is actually the opposite of the others. When asked point blank on The Breakfast Club whether she had ever had cosmetic surgery, she answered without a moment's hesitation, "Hell no, you could not cut me for nothing." Her friend and fellow performer Stephanie Mills was sitting beside her. Mills had just described how seeing Patti LaBelle's rhinoplasty had inspired her own. The contrast was immediate and illuminating. Two women of the same era, the same industry, the same pressures, who made entirely different choices. Neither wrong, both honest. Chaka Khan's refusal is not a judgment of those who chose differently. It is simply the declaration of a woman who has always known exactly who she is. She has survived addiction. She was candid about cocaine and alcohol dependency that lasted into the early 1990s. She has survived industry exploitation and creative battles with record labels. She has survived loss. Through all of it, she chose to keep her face. There is something quietly profound about that. When the world spends decades trying to tell you that you are not enough, choosing to remain unchanged is, in its own way, an act of radical self-respect. She is 73 years old, still singing, still herself. Patti LaBelle. Patricia Louise Holt was born May 24, 1944, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And from the moment she found her voice, it was clear that this was not a woman built for quiet. Patti LaBelle fronted the groundbreaking funk soul group LaBelle through the late 1960s and early 1970s, scoring the iconic Lady Marmalade in 1975 before launching a solo career that produced beloved hits like If Only You Knew, 1983, and the anthemic duet On My Own with Michael McDonald in 1986. She is 81 years old now, an elder stateswoman of American music, a woman who has outlasted trends, record labels, and personal heartbreak with equal grace. But earlier in her career, before the accolades accumulated into legend, Patti LaBelle made a decision she would spend decades regretting. She had a rhinoplasty. She changed her nose. In her own words, the reasoning was fear. Fear that her nose, which she described as bigger, would look even larger on television. Fear that the camera would be unkind. Fear that the industry, which had already made clear it had preferences about how Black women should present themselves, would find her wanting. The surgery happened, the nose changed, and for years Patti LaBelle said nothing, because in the entertainment world of the 1970s and 80s, cosmetic procedures were confessions, not conversations. It was only in 2021, on The Breakfast Club, that she described the moment with full honesty. Stephanie Mills, her friend and contemporary, had gotten her nose done first, and Patti had seen the result and thought, I could do that too. She did, and then she spent years wishing she hadn't. I would tell my younger self not to worry about that nose, she told Access Hollywood. My nose was fine before I changed it. That admission, from one of the most celebrated voices in American music history, is one of the most generous things an artist can offer. The truth that experience teaches, offered freely so others might not pay the same price. She has only had one procedure. One. Her face is largely her own, and her voice has never needed anyone's permission to be magnificent. Stephanie Mills. There are performances that exist outside of time. Stephanie Mills as Dorothy in the original Broadway production of The Wiz, which opened in January 1975 and ran for 1,672 performances, is one of them. She was 17 years old when she stepped onto that stage. She was born April 22, 1957, in Brooklyn, New York, the daughter of a church deacon, shaped by gospel music before she was shaped by anything else. When she sang Home, she wasn't performing a song, she was performing a longing. Stephanie Mills became a recording star through the late 1970s and 1980s with a series of R&B hits, including Never Knew Love Like This Before, 1980, which won her a Grammy for Best R&B Vocal Performance Female, a fact that is somehow always overshadowed by conversations about her appearance, which is itself a commentary on what the industry finds more interesting. In 2021, on The Breakfast Club, Stephanie Mills confirmed openly that she had a rhinoplasty in the 1980s and revealed something extraordinary alongside it, that Michael Jackson himself had inspired her decision and that she had gone to the same surgeon. The intimacy of that detail, the image of two young Black artists from the same era, each privately struggling with how they looked and whether they were enough, is genuinely moving. She also disclosed that she had been the unnamed friend Patti LaBelle mentioned, the one whose new nose had inspired Patti's own procedure. Was it me? You can say it, I don't care. It was me. 7 words, delivered with a laugh, carrying decades of history. In the Breakfast Club conversation, Stephanie Mills added a line that landed like a quiet truth. All of them do it. You know, all of the girls do it. Not a boast, not a scandal, just a statement of fact about an industry that demanded transformation while pretending everyone arrived perfect. She is 65 years old. Her voice still holds everything The Wiz promised. Home, it turns out, was always inside her. Janet Jackson. Janet Demita Jo Jackson was born May 16, 1966, in Gary, Indiana, the 10th and youngest child of a family that had already produced one of the greatest entertainers in history. The expectation that came with that birth certificate was immense. The pressure to perform, to be remarkable, to justify the name. It began before Janet could fully choose her own path. She chose it anyway. Control in 1986, produced by Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, sold over 14 million copies worldwide and announced that Janet Jackson was not her brother's footnote. She was her own declaration. Rhythm Nation, 1814, 1989, Janet, 1993, The Velvet Rope, 1997, followed, each one deepening a career that has now spanned 5 decades, produced over 100 million records sold globally, and earned her a place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. At age 16, Janet had rhinoplasty. She confirmed this in a 2006 interview with Extra, describing a decision made at the very beginning of her public life, before she had the perspective to understand what it might mean long-term. She has acknowledged this single procedure. Everything else, the various changes in her appearance over the decades, she has attributed to aging, styling, and what she calls a little bit of zhuzh. The complexity of Janet Jackson's story is not what she has or hasn't changed. It is the weight of existing in the shadow of the most scrutinized transformation in pop history. Michael's changes were dissected globally. Janet's were held against his, measured, compared, speculated upon. She spent her career carving out identity while being constantly repositioned as context for someone else's story. In The Velvet Rope, one of the most unflinching, introspective albums ever made by a mainstream pop artist, she sang about depression, childhood trauma, and the loneliness that lives inside enormous fame. That album was not performance, it was evidence. Janet Jackson is 59 years old. Her contribution to music, dance, and the cultural conversation about Black womanhood is incalculable. Whatever she has chosen to do with her face is hers alone. Tina Turner. Anna Mae Bullock was born November 26, 1939, in Nutbush, Tennessee, and the life that followed reads less like a biography and more like a reckoning. She survived abuse, poverty, professional erasure, and reinvention so complete that it rewrote the rules for what a woman in her fifth decade could accomplish. When Private Dancer launched her global comeback in 1984, she was 44 years old. The album sold over 20 million copies. The tour that followed set attendance records across Europe. Tina Turner, against every industry expectation, became the biggest stadium draw of her era. Her physical transformation is perhaps the most honest of any in this collection, because she told it herself without prompting. In the 1990s, she confirmed that she had undergone rhinoplasty, corrective, not cosmetic, because her nose had been broken multiple times during years of physical abuse by her former husband, Ike Turner. She also confirmed breast augmentation and a facelift, all discussed openly in interviews with Oprah Winfrey and elsewhere. The blepharoplasty, eyelid surgery, she also acknowledged, describing it in practical terms. The stage lighting no longer illuminated her face the way it once had, and the procedure helped. That matter-of-fact approach to her own body, "I needed this, I did it, here we are," is quintessentially Tina. She never made her surgeries a confession or a scandal. They were decisions made by a woman who had spent decades having decisions made for her without consent. She passed away on May 24, 2023, in Küsnacht, Switzerland, at the age of 83, following a series of health challenges including intestinal cancer, a stroke, and kidney failure. Her husband, Erwin Bach, having donated one of his own kidneys to save her life in 2017. Tina Turner is survived by 200 million records sold, by What's Love Got to Do With It, by Proud Mary, by the image of a woman in a leather skirt and heels, at 50, at 60, at 70, electrifying an arena because she had earned every single second of it. She did not survive by being fragile. She survived by being exactly who she was. Whitney Houston. She arrived fully formed. Whitney Elizabeth Houston, born August 9, 1963, in Newark, New Jersey, released her debut album in 1985, and it immediately became the best-selling debut album by a solo artist in history. She was 22 years old. Her voice, a soprano of extraordinary range, precision, and emotional depth, was described by critics as the voice, capitalized, as though the instrument required its own proper noun. The numbers that followed are almost impossible to absorb. 7 consecutive #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100, a record that has never been broken. Over 220 million records sold worldwide. 2 Emmy Awards, 6 Grammy Awards, 16 Billboard Music Awards. I Will Always Love You, her 1992 cover of Dolly Parton's song, remains the best-selling single ever recorded by a woman. Into this story of extraordinary achievement, questions about cosmetic work arrived quietly. These in her appearance through the 1990s, a more refined nasal profile, altered eyelids, fuller cheekbones at certain periods, generated speculation that was never confirmed or denied by Whitney herself. A former studio associate reportedly described pressure to not look tired as constant and relentless. The details remain unverified and belong more to rumor than to record. Whitney Houston never publicly confirmed any cosmetic procedures. What is documented and real is the other story. The descent into drug dependency, the difficult marriage to Bobby Brown, the years when the voice that had made her a legend began to show the strain of a life lived at a pitch no human body was designed to sustain. She was found in a bathtub at the Beverly Hilton Hotel on February 11, 2012, the night before the Grammy Awards she had attended so many times as its brightest star. She was 48 years old. accidental drowning, with heart disease and cocaine use as contributing factors. What Whitney Houston deserved was not perfection. It was safety, rest, and the freedom to be fragile in private. That she never fully had those things is the real tragedy, far greater than any rumor about her face. Diana Ross. Diana Ernestine Earl Ross was born March 26, 1944, in Detroit, Michigan, and she became, through sheer force of talent and will, one of the defining figures of 20th century music. As the lead voice of the Supremes, a Motown group that scored 12 #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100 between 1964 and 1969, making them the most successful American vocal group of that era, she gave American pop music some of its most recognizable sounds. Her solo career added further dimensions. The Academy Award-nominated Lady Sings the Blues, 1972, her portrayal of Billie Holiday showcasing an acting range that Hollywood then largely chose not to pursue. Over the decades, Diana Ross's appearance has changed in ways that experts, journalists, and fans have analyzed extensively. Her eyes appear larger, her nose more refined, her cheekbones more pronounced than in early photographs. A makeup artist who worked with her reportedly noted that preparations required constant adjustment because her face looked different from one visit to the next. None of these observations constitute confirmation, and Diana Ross has never publicly discussed cosmetic procedures. What is worth holding on to is the pressure she has always operated under. Diana Ross was the face of Motown at a time when Motown was the black music industry's entry point into white mainstream culture. The standard she was held to, for elegance, for appearance, for a specific kind of aspirational beauty, was not accidental. It was engineered. Motown trained its artists in comportment, presentation, and image management with a thoroughness that left little room for the ordinary. To age in that context was to betray the image. To change was perhaps to manage it. She is 81 years old. She performed at the 2024 Grammy Awards. She stood at the microphone and the audience stood back. Because some things, a voice, a legacy, a presence, are simply beyond the reach of whatever time or surgery or scrutiny might attempt. Diana Ross has been magnificent for over 60 years. Whatever choices she has made about her face are the smallest part of that story. Jermaine Jackson. Jermaine LaJean Jackson was born December 11, 1954, in Gary, Indiana, the third of the 10 Jackson children. And for a brief, brilliant period in the early 1970s, he was the second voice of the Jackson Five, his baritone providing the harmonic foundation beneath Michael's soaring lead. He was the cool one, the handsome one, the one who stayed with Motown when the rest of the family moved to Epic Records in 1975, a decision that created years of professional distance between him and his brothers. His solo career produced modest but genuine successes, including Let's Get Serious, 1980, written and produced by Stevie Wonder, which reached #1 on the R&B charts. He rejoined the Jackson Five, renamed the Jacksons, for the Victory Tour in 1984, one of the highest-grossing concert tours of that year. Over the decades, Jermaine's appearance has changed in ways that prompted considerable public speculation. His nose has become noticeably smaller and more refined. His skin tone has lightened. His jawline has grown more angular. A cosmetic surgeon analyzing publicly available photographs identified markers consistent with rhinoplasty, possible jaw contouring, and cheek filler injections, though Jermaine Jackson has never confirmed any of these observations. A fan who met him in 1999 reportedly described the encounter as disorienting, something cold and unfamiliar in the face that hadn't been there before. That description, however anecdotal, captures something that many people in the public's relationship with the Jackson family have felt: the sense that transformation, over time, creates a kind of distance between the person and the memory of who they were. Jermaine Jackson is 71 years old. He still performs, still appears at public events. The voice is still there. What has changed? What has been lost or gained? In the face that carries it is a question that only he can answer. Some stories are more complete in their silences than in their words. Lionel Richie. Lionel Brockman Richie Jr. was born June 20th, 1949, in Tuskegee, Alabama, on the grounds of the Tuskegee Institute, a historical detail that says something about the environment of ambition and achievement that surrounded him from birth. He grew up to become one of the best-selling artists in history, with over 125 million records sold worldwide. Hello, 1984, All Night Long, 1983, Say You, Say Me, 1985. These are not just songs. They are the texture of the 1980s, woven into the emotional memory of an entire generation. He wrote We Are the World in 1985 alongside Michael Jackson, a song that raised over $63 million for African famine relief and remains one of the most consequential collaborative recordings in music history. He has won 4 Grammy Awards, an Oscar, and a Golden Globe. By the early 2000s, observers began noting changes in Lionel Richie's appearance that seemed inconsistent with natural aging. His skin appeared unusually smooth and largely free of wrinkles. His cheekbones sat higher and more rigidly than before. His facial features appeared sharper than photographs from his peak years suggested they naturally were. The words most commonly associated with these observations, Botox, fillers, possible facelifts, have circulated in media for years. Lionel Richie has never publicly confirmed any of them. A colleague who worked with him reportedly recalled him saying something to the effect that if he aged visibly, he would be called outdated. If he maintained a youthful appearance, he would be called artificial. The impossible position is its own kind of cruelty, a standard created not by the artist, but by an audience that consumes and then criticizes the very lengths to which artists go to meet its expectations. Hello begins, I've been alone with you inside my mind. That's an artist doing the deepest possible work, finding the interior life that connects strangers across distance and time. No amount of Botox can produce that. It either exists or it doesn't. In Lionel Richie, it exists. He is 76 years old. He still tours. He still fills arenas. The smile may be harder to read than it used to be. The music remains entirely legible. Natalie Cole. The name Natalie Cole carried, from birth, the weight of a legend. Her father, Nat King Cole, born March 17, 1919, died February 15, 1965, was one of the most beloved American entertainers of the 20th century, a velvet-voiced pianist and singer whose recordings of Unforgettable, Mona Lisa, and Nature Boy have never stopped being played. Natalie was born February 6, 1950, in Los Angeles, 15 years before her father died of lung cancer, leaving her with a legacy so enormous it could easily have swallowed her whole. It tried for years. Natalie Cole struggled with heroin addiction through much of the 1970s and early 1980s, a period she later described with painful honesty in her 2000 memoir, Angel on My Shoulder. She won a Grammy for Best New Artist in 1976, released strong albums, and then largely disappeared as the addiction took hold. When she returned, clean and committed, with Everlasting in 1987 and The Extraordinary Unforgettable, with Love in 1991, a tribute album on which she duetted with her father using archival recordings. She won 7 Grammy Awards in a single evening and became, definitively, herself. By the late 1990s, observers began noting changes in her appearance: a narrower nose, higher cheekbones, a more angular chin. No confirmation was ever offered. The speculation was that she was trying, consciously or not, to differentiate herself from a face that the public always compared to her father's. Whether that interpretation is fair is impossible to know. What is true is that Natalie Cole spent her entire adult life negotiating the relationship between her identity and her inheritance. She received a kidney transplant in 2009 after years of hepatitis C and renal failure, much of it the lingering consequence of addiction. She died on December 31st, 2015, at the age of 65 from congestive heart failure and idiopathic pulmonary arterial hypertension. Unforgettable. The word is the right one. Not because of the song, though the song is perfect, but because Natalie Cole, in the end, made herself impossible to forget on her own terms. Donna Summer. LaDonna Adrienne Gaines was born December 31st, 1948, in Boston, Massachusetts, on the last day of a year, a detail that feels almost metaphorical for someone who would spend her career redefining endings and beginnings simultaneously. She became Donna Summer, the undisputed queen of disco, and she sold over 130 million records worldwide across a career that began in the 1970s and refused to stop producing extraordinary music until the very end of her life. I Feel Love, 1977, produced by Giorgio Moroder, was not just a hit song, it was the architectural blueprint for electronic dance music that followed for the next 5 decades. Hot Stuff and Bad Girls, both 1979, gave her back-to-back Grammy wins in rock and pop simultaneously, making her the first artist in Grammy history to achieve that distinction. She Works Hard for the Money, 1983, extended her relevance past disco's commercial collapse and into a new decade. By the late 1980s, when disco had been declared dead and Donna Summer was attempting to navigate a changed musical landscape, her appearance began to shift in ways that observers noted publicly. Her cheekbones appeared more sculpted. Her nose was more refined. Her overall facial structure seemed sharper and more angular than photographs from her peak years showed. A stylist who worked with her during the "This Time I Know It's For Real" video shoot described the change as striking, elegant, but noticeably different. Donna Summer neither confirmed nor denied. She maintained silence with characteristic dignity and continued to perform. She died on May 17, 2012, at the age of 63 from lung cancer, a diagnosis that came as a shock, as she had never smoked. She attributed her illness to the inhalation of toxic dust following the September 11th attacks, which she experienced while living in New York. Donna Summer's final album, Crayons, was released in 2008. Her final Grammy was posthumous for Best Dance Recording in 2013. The music outlasted the silence that surrounded her choices, which is exactly how it should be. Vesta Williams. Mary Vesta Williams was born December 1st, 1957, in Coshocton, Ohio, and she possessed one of the most powerful voices of her era, a thick, soulful instrument capable of the kind of emotional weight that stops a room cold. She is the name that comes up when people ask which singer deserved far more than she received, and the answer is always the same: Vesta Williams. She spent her early career as a backup vocalist, working with artists including Chaka Khan, Gladys Knight, Sting, Stephanie Mills, and Anita Baker, a list of collaborators that tells you exactly what caliber of voice she was. Her debut album, Vesta, was released in 1986 on A&M Records. Her 1988 follow-up, Vesta For You, produced 3 top 10 R&B hits: Sweet Sweet Love, For You, and Congratulations, the last of which became her only single to chart on the Billboard Hot 100. And then, as happens to too many Black women in music who don't conform to industry expectations of size, image, and marketability, the doors began to close. Her transformation, observed on the cover of Vesta For You and in subsequent public appearances, included sculpted cheekbones, sharper eyes, and a smaller chin that differed noticeably from her earlier photographs. A stylist associated with her work described a pressure to look sleeker, more suitable for television. A personal confidant reportedly said Vesta admitted to surgery and to other struggles, a detail that speaks not to vanity, but to the desperate calculus of an artist trying to stay relevant in an industry that had decided she wasn't what it wanted. In an interview, she reportedly said, "Black people are never allowed to be old, chubby, or realistic. I just want to exist." Read that again. Not to be famous, not to be celebrated, just to exist. Vesta Williams died on September 22, 2011, in Atlanta, Georgia, at the age of 53. The cause was accidental overdose. The grief among those who knew her music was real and quiet. The grief of people who had loved something that the mainstream never bothered to find. What we owe Vesta Williams is not pity, it is recognition. The voice she had, the career she fought for, the specific and irreplaceable sound she brought to every room she entered, that deserves to be remembered loudly, for as long as memory allows. She just wanted to exist. She did, magnificently. 23 names, 23 journeys, and one question that doesn't have a clean answer. When the world tells you to change, is transforming yourself an act of weakness or the most exhausting form of strength? These icons didn't go under the knife because they hated themselves. Most of them did it because an industry built on image gave them no other language to speak. And yet, Chaka Khan looked that same industry in the eye and said, "Hell no." So who had it right? The ones who changed to survive, or the one who refused? That debate belongs to you. Drop your answer in the comments right now. We read every single one. And if this video moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear these stories. Subscribe to Black Excellence Legends, because this channel exists for one reason: to make sure greatness is never forgotten and the truth is never buried again.